We're now joined by the president of the Bayhawks, Mark Burdett. Mark, it was a little less than a year ago that you took over this role, January of last year. What'd you learn in year one?
Oh, man, a lot. Certainly, I learned the good things I learned were I fell back in love with the sport. I was so impressed with the level of play, the quality and character of our players. I mean, the commitment of everybody around the sport in the MLL, the coaches, and it's all being done on a part-time basis by so many people, and it still functions, and it's still really a competitive game. I learned also that if we can move people more to a full-time capacity on all fronts, I think the game could grow and flourish even better. So, there's some frustrations that you can't get as much done as you'd like, certainly on a practice basis with players, on a branding and marketing basis with players and coaches. Even many of your employees tend to be day of game and or part-time. But I think the game and the competition are in absolutely great places. So I'm really positive about that. And, we've got some initiatives that we're working on here that we'll talk about that I think are going to help us kind of solidify our footprint in the Mid-Atlantic and how we want to go forward. So really excited. I think it's been great. I think it's gone by incredibly fast. I thought I was just going to be a consultant, and I had a full-time job.
Yeah, you mentioned the full-time thing, and obviously the dream for everybody in this league is to have players available all the time, practicing 6-7 days a week, getting a chance to play in the games.
Right.
One thing you guys have done this offseason is you move away from Brian Reese as your head coach, mainly because of a time commitment issue, looking to bring in a full-time coach. I know you're down to your finalists. Talk a little bit about what you've heard from the coaching candidates you've brought in about the full-time commitment you're asking for.
Well, yeah, so backing up a second. So, yeah, Brian, obviously, who we've talked about, Travis, we still have very high regard for him, and he's got a lot of other really big priorities. Once again, I'll just stress he's there to support his wife, who runs the best women's college program, I might say, as a Terp alumni in the country. He's got 4 children, and he's a teacher. So all that, in my opinion, prioritizes his role here with the Bayhawks, and we support him in that decision. So as the candidates came through and read the job description, and we talked even prior to interviews, it was some were like, well, what am I going to do full time? Like, I don't even understand how I would fill a work week. And then others were, wow, had I had a chance to work 20 more hours a week, 30 more hours a week, whatever it required, I could have done a lot more. And what does that mean? That means communicating with the players. That means branding the product. That means working in the community. That means going with the marketing team and the sales team on sales calls. That means being present at every single camp and every clinic and every Kiwanis Club and every Rotary Club event, and really just shaking hands and making friends and helping us advocate what we're doing in the community, which is, in our case, more than just playing games. We're working really hard on building a sports complex that requires investment of time and treasure, political will, a number of things that we all need to be moving the ball forward on. So that's the role of what a full-time head coach would be from my seat. And to the extent that the coach can actually communicate and plan and game plan and break down film because they've got more time and hours and less distractions, well, that's only going to benefit the team on the field. So that's a little bit about what we're doing. Some of it maybe we'll figure out as we go.
You mentioned the new stadium complex, and that is certainly something that is intriguing a lot of people, a place where the Bayhawks can really call their own, their home. Yeah. What's the latest update you have on the new complex?
So keeping our fingers crossed, okay, I think we're probably 2 to 3 weeks out from a pretty significant announcement. We'll have a letter of agreement signed with the state and the county for a property that's only about 6 miles from where I am right now. It's strategically located right outside the Annapolis city limits, 7 miles from BWI Airport, 14 miles from Baltimore, 22 miles from Washington. Really great location. It's a property that's not being utilized right now, so there's a development that would happen there. We want to build a right-sized stadium. We want to build a sports complex with outdoor fields. And that's really just stage one. And then we've got some plans for maybe even some bigger and more significant things with an indoor arena, possible hotel, expansion of more fields. We've done a lot of studies on the youth sports club, travel team, tournament, and the business is booming. And we are underserved in this community by the number of fields our youth teams can play on. And we really want to activate Bayhawks youth initiatives, Bayhawks youth camp teams, clinics, and things of that nature. And we think we can combine all this around our facility and make a business of it and build our brand and, sell tickets to our games and do all the rest of those things, utilizing our head coach, our players, and our staff outside of just game day experiences. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. It's pretty specific in our mind and in our plan. And I don't think anyone else is as far along as we are in the MLL to do this, but it's one way of just taking control of your own future while we're waiting for the MLL to figure out some things and grow and build its own business that we can participate on that front as well.
You mentioned a lot of the kids that come to your games, and being in a hotbed area like you guys are, I think you have maybe a distinct advantage over some because people know about the sport of lacrosse in the Baltimore, Annapolis area. But how can you, what are the different parts of the population in that area you feel like you can grow in when it comes to ticket sales wise in the next couple of years?
Well, let's just take, I think, parents are obviously very cognizant of travel. Coaches are cognizant of travel, and it's really miles spent, time spent. So by centrally locating this facility, we think that we can be in a proximity closer to the Washington, D.C. suburbs by probably a good 20 minutes, 20 miles. And this is like in New England, it's a very busy area. So somebody says, oh, it's 30 miles away. People shake their heads and say, I'm not doing it. So we really think that we can actually tap the Montgomery County, Northern Virginia area. We know that we obviously can do more in the Northern Baltimore suburbs. We've got the Eastern Shore pretty well figured out. So if you draw a 75-mile radius around this facility, I'm drawing a circle here. You got about 9 million people that live in Baltimore, Washington, Philadelphia suburbs that we can actually touch if we give them a value proposition of a practice event, a clinic, and then come to our game. That's a great day for a youth team and for a family to come and take advantage of. So we think if we can combine those things all kind of in a row, the travel becomes less onerous and more productive for a family and or for a team. And that's the thought process is that in order to build our brand, we've got to be touching every youth team, every player in the Mid-Atlantic, and do it enough so that while their schedules may have conflicts with ours or while their schedules may have conflicts during our season, there'll be enough runway around the season or outside the season that we could actually still engage with them and have them be excited about the Bayhawks brand and become Bayhawks fans for life. So that's kind of the thinking.
Yeah, finally, you took a game back to Baltimore last year, playing at Johns Hopkins historic Homewood Field. What's the update on possibly doing that again this year?
So I think it's a very good possibility, and let me give you some background on why that we do that. First and foremost, we're fortunate on many fronts to play at the United States Naval Academy Marine Corps Stadium, which is really a tremendous venue with a lot of history, and it's really a monument to our Navy and Marine Corps. That's great. It's 44,000 seats big, and that's too big, and we're insignificant in a building that size. So that's one of the reasons we're moving fast to build our own complex. Secondly, when we go to Hopkins, well, the reason we go to Hopkins is because Navy has the Patriot League, the NCAA quarterfinals, and graduation. It all happened in the month of May. So we get kind of blocked out, and we've got to go somewhere in the month of May to host a home game. Homewood Field, one of the most nostalgic, one of the best venues for college lacrosse in the country. Many, if not most, of the MLL players have played at Hopkins at one point, so it's got some real familiarity to it. They're great to work with. And we think we can touch some of the northern Baltimore Southern Pennsylvania teams and folks that might not make the travel to Annapolis. So it has some real opportunities for us to expand our brand, to reach out to some different people, and play on a really significant and a well-known venue. It's not like when you tell people we're going to Hopkins and Homewood Field, they go, "Where? Like, why would you go there?" Right? So that's a positive. It also just teaches you that you really want your own home. You want a place that everybody's familiar with, and one that you control all the revenue streams and all the operational challenges there. So, knock on wood, we're moving forward hard and fast towards that end, and we're excited about it. So that's a big part of how we're trying to move the Bayhawks from a part-time organization to a full-time business lacrosse team. And that's kind of my job. That's really what I'm focused on 90% of the time. And I let Cottle and our new coach worry about the X's and O's and the rosters and the players, because I know they can handle all that.
Well, Mark, looking forward to some exciting announcements over the next couple of weeks. Thanks as always for the time, and good luck with everything.